Item: SCP-1709. Code name: Human Fetus Composite. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-1709 is to be kept in a standard humanoid containment cell in Medical Bay 2 at Site-34. SCP-1709 is to receive intravenous hydration and nutrition through enteral feeding as directed by medical personnel, and is to be maintained in accordance with established physiological protocols for subjects exhibiting symptoms consistent with a score of between 9-16 on the Bush-Francis Catatonia scale. SCP-1709 is to receive monthly medical examinations and updates to its containment protocols adjusted as necessary by the Research Director. Personnel are not allowed to speak in SCP-1709's presence or make attempts to communicate with it unless authorized to do so by the Research Director. SCP-1709-01AA through SCP-1709-01F are to be preserved and kept in Specimen Locker 13C. All subsequent instances of SCP-1709-1701 are to be treated as biohazardous waste after the conclusion of related research and incinerated immediately thereafter. Description: SCP-1709 is a human female, approximately 52 years of age and of Quechua descent, measuring 1.54 meters and weighing 54.3 kilograms. Due to SCP-1709's limited willingness to communicate on the subject and poor record-keeping by local authorities in the Ayacucho region of Peru, little is known about its provenance beyond general information. SCP-1709 is apparently in a catatonic state, and displays very little ability or inclination to act on its own behalf outside of documented anomalous behavior. SCP-1709 lacks most of the major internal organs found in human specimens. Instead, SCP-1709's vital biological functions are carried out by a series of organisms bearing a superficial resemblance to a mass of fused human fetuses in various stages of development. Ultrasound imaging and biopsies have determined that these organisms have adapted specialized cells and structures to effectively duplicate necessary life functions. Examples include SCP-1709's heart, which consists of two approximately 19 cm fetuses joined at the spine that have developed exaggerated musculature and 4 internal chambers. A pancreas made up of an indeterminate number of smaller embryos that somehow manufactures insulin, glucagon and related pancreatic secretions, and a mass consisting of 3 fetal human heads that has been documented to replicate the combined function of the liver and the kidneys. DNA analysis of tissue samples retrieved from these structures have determined that these organisms are genetically identical to SCP-1709. Despite its catatonic state, SCP-1709 has demonstrated a limited capacity for communication. When another human has addressed SCP-1709 directly, in 43% of documented cases it has responded with whatever information it has at its disposal. SCP-1709 communicates by somehow processing the remarks directed at it, and subsequently expectorating a human fetus from a sac connected to its esophagus, which gestates between 3-8 organisms at any given time. These fetuses appear to be at approximately 10-12 weeks of development. This fetus, hereby designated as an instance of SCP-1709-1701, will then vocalize a response to the inquiry or statement originally directed at SCP-1709. SCP-1709-1701 manages this vocalization despite the lack of a fully developed larynx or lungs. Responses typically consist of 1 or 2 sentences. Every instance of SCP-1709-1701 speaks with a voice consistent with that of an elderly woman with slight damage to the vocal cords associated with a heavy smoking habit. SCP-1709's linguistic aptitude appears to be primarily the Quechua 2C dialect, with a limited understanding of basic Spanish. Instances of SCP-1709 to 1701 will communicate primarily in Quechua, but as of will occasionally speak in broken, rudimentary English. After communicating, instances of SCP-1709 to 1701 will then expire in a manner consistent with the removal of pre-viable human fetuses. Interview Log 1709-2. Researchers note, the following log is a conversation recorded on between SCP-1709 and Research Director Dr. Khaled Iqbal. Researcher Horegi, fluent in several Quechua dialects, provided English Quechua translation between Dr. Iqbal, SCP-1709, and SCP-1709 to 1701's responses. Dr. Iqbal, in our previous conversation, SCP-1709, you declined to provide details about your life prior to your time at Site-34. Have you reconsidered our request for this information? I can assure you that we are merely trying to establish a scientific account. Staff waits for response for 2 minutes and 18 seconds. SCP-1709 expectorates SCP-1709-01-DK. Specimen lands on table in front of SCP-1709 and commences vocalization. SCP-1709-01-DK. You're not the only doctors I've seen. Pishtaku comes in many forms. You'll not get anything from me. Dogs. Greater than sign. Dr. Iqbal. Very well. SCP-1709. Though again I must stress that the Foundation does not mean you any harm whatsoever. How would you describe your current living conditions? Staff waits for response for 1 minute and 48 seconds. SCP-1709-01-DK is collected at this time by staff for post-interview incineration. SCP-1709 expectorates SCP-1709-01-DL. Specimen commences response. SCP-1709-01-DL. Give me back my pipe and tobacco. I asked about this before. Greater than sign. Dr. Iqbal, and you were informed at that time that your request has been denied based on the Foundation's prohibitions on providing addictive and harmful substances to subjects in our care, as was your appeal to the medical staff. Are there any other details of your day-to-day care that you would like to address? Staff waits for response for 6 minutes and 32 seconds before determining that no response is forthcoming. End transcript. Incident 1709-1. On SCP-1709 deviated from its demonstrated catatonic behavior, and initiated conversation with janitorial staff that was in the process of cleaning its containment cell. Staff immediately alerted research personnel, which documented the following communications from SCP-1709. SCP-1709-01-FB. I have a joke for you. A merchant visits a small village. He has many fine rugs, and sturdy farming tools. But the village is poor. The headman knows how poor they are, so he sends the most beautiful girl in the village to see the merchant. Make a deal, he says. Greater than sign. SCP-1709-01-FB expires. Staff collects specimen and waits 2 minutes and 56 seconds before SCP-1709 expectorates SCP-1709-01-FC. SCP-1709-01-FC. The girl goes to see the merchant. He is a lecherous pig, which she expected. We have no gold here, she says. But I think I know what you want. The merchant grins. Yes, he said, but these are some of the best goods in the land. It will take more than one time to satisfy me for what I bring. The girl agrees to his terms and they conclude their business. Greater than sign. SCP-1709-01 expires. Staff collects specimen and waits 1 minute and 9 seconds before SCP-1709 expectorates. SCP-1709-01 SCP-1709-01 Afterwards, the merchant picks up his pack and starts to leave. He points to all the goods he has brought with him. "It's all yours," he says. The girl, no stranger to this kind of bartering, is surprised. But she is too cagey to show it. As she gets ready to take the cart into town, the merchant looks at her, tips his cap, and says, "Please, keep the change." Greater than sign. SCP-1709-01 expires. Staff collects specimen and waits 3 minutes and 21 seconds before SCP-1709 expectorates. SCP-1709-01 Fair. SCP-1709-01 Fair. Ha 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 ha. SCP-1709-01 Fair continues laughing well beyond the documented viability period for SCP-1709 to 1701 instances. After 3 hours of observation, research staff dispose of specimens collected during Incident 1709-1. SCP-1709-01 Fair continues laughing until incineration. Researchers note, to date, Incident 1709-1 remains the only recorded instance of SCP-1709 initiating communication with Foundation personnel.